Have you checked the children? Your little master.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
Robert Duell.
And we are back to review a Patreon request. This was a poll request for one of the recent months over on our Patreon. The Patreon link is in the description box down below if you want to support the channel more directly. Every month we do a vote for what horror movie the patrons want us to review for that month. So this month was Basket Case.
Nice.
The original from 1982 from Frank Henenlotter.
Frank Henenlotter.
There you go, I got it right.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite. He calls himself an exploitation director more so than a horror director, and he's also done Frankenhooker, Brain Damage, which is my favorite of his films, and obviously the other two.
Head of the Family too, didn't he? Or was
Nope.
that no? That I'm mixing that up with.
That was a full moon
crap.
Yeah.
My bad,
Although-
Frank. I apologize. Yeah. So let's talk about Basket Case. Overall thoughts. This is one that I saw when I was younger. I've seen all three of them. I recently purchased the trilogy. You can see it on one of our, horror halls of the past year or so. But I gotta be honest, rewatching this first one, I was not as happy with it as I remembered. I don't know that I remembered being really happy with it, but I didn't remember it being quite as tough to sit through as it was this time for me. It is a classic for what it is, but I think still other movies of the time did what this did better. So overall I was whelmed, but not overly.
Okay. Being a big Henenlotter fan, this was the inferior one in my estimation to Basket Case 2 that I think came out in 1990, and he filmed it back to back with the third one. This one I was never as into, but I hadn't watched it in many, many years. I rewatched it last night, and it is such a strange snapshot of New York City in the late 70s, early 80s, the seediness and nastiness and griminess and everything. It has its charm. I actually was more amused by these kooky New York characters that our main guy interacts with. Yeah, he does. They are most definitely, but I mean, New York City people in those early 80s. I know you're from upstate, right?
Oh, yeah, but get that right, bro. Upstate, not that city bullshit.
Yeah. But I mean, just from the guy running the front desk to the maybe hooker woman living right across the way, and I don't know. It's campy, it's schlocky, it's a really gross film in a lot of ways, but. We'll get to it in the story, but there's a bit of a flashback sequence that I actually was like, I felt kind of bad. So I don't love this movie. Brain Damage is the Henenlotter film that I love, but I found more merit in this original one than I always champion Basket Case 2. I still prefer it, but this was at least more enjoyable than I remember. But I use that word rather sparingly.
See, sparingly is an interesting word.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. See. Okay. So
Come on, New York, tell us.
like I was telling these guys earlier, the Basket Case, this is actually my first time watched this morning of the recording. It's set in my queue for the longest time, and I've always been told oh, you need to watch it. It's just one of those 80s B movie staples that any monster fan, really, or creature feature should watch.
Mm-hmm.
Midnight movie.
The only reason, quite frankly, I'm standing here to do this review.
Yeah.
Because I'm the Fuego and I are the biggest creature movie fans. Really,
and don't get me wrong, I love my
be on
creatures
this
and everything.
review, yeah.
And again, if you guys, obviously you've seen it. I'm not big on the slashers and things like that. I like my monsters like the creatures more than anything. With this movie, I went in there I still went in with an open mind, but I still left very underwhelmed on a lot of different aspects, and we'll get into that and everything when it comes to acting and things like that. But specifically, yes. But there was like what these guys were saying. There was those good 80s B-style merits that you can still appreciate with this movie. It's obviously it's not the greatest and everything personally, because it's the first one I've gone through. I'm still keeping an open mind for what Fuego has said on the second one. I don't know about his ideas on the third one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, third one's pretty bad. But,
Yeah.
See, then there you go. I'm just gonna plow on through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would say no, this isn't a super enjoyable movie. It is a little tough to get through, but it's just one of those things, like, if you haven't seen it and you are a fan of just that style of 80s filmmaking, this is something you should definitely watch.
Story-wise, it's about a young man who comes walking into New York City from upstate, and he's carrying a basket, and he gets a random seedy hotel room, the first hotel that he happens across in New York, apparently.
$20 a day.
$20 a day.
You're like, whoa.
And when you check in, you've got the Coming to America barbershop kind of scenario where there's all these guys having a conversation and observing.
Yeah, but they're all
more.
drunks and druggies. Like,
It seems like the predominance of peeps that are there, unless
or
they're
hookers,
women.
you know, 'cause the hooker, well, the hooker lives across the hallway.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's all the tropes of the 80s New York, and he has this basket, and we see other scenes interspersed where medical personnel are getting killed, and we find out, you know, pretty quickly that this kid is going to these places, and then these people are being killed. And about, you know, halfway through the film, we find out that what's in the basket is actually his twin brother that has been severed from himself and is doing the killing.
Formerly Siamese.
Belial, yeah, Belial.
That's one thing I like. I like the name that they gave him. That's, I think, one of my more positive notes on this movie.
I think the other brother's name was like Dwayne or something.
Yeah, it was something fucking white and generic.
Tell that to Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
No.
Yeah, well, you know, he's got Rock in there, you know. There's only so much you can actually say to the fucking guy.
But yeah, that's the long and short of the story, and Dwayne has to deal with the fact that Belial is starting to listen to him less and less, or maybe never at all listen to him, and their actual relationship is now coming to the surface. So that's the long and short of the story, and I think the story for schlocky 80s horror is just fine, but
it was simple.
It's very simple, and it's carried through okay, but the problem is the execution is where it let me down. So story-wise, it's fine, but it's the execution that let me down.
Yeah, I could say the like different tones that we shift to, because the aforementioned flashback where you see Belial being taken from this young kid who's lived his whole life with him up to that point and stuff, and just the sadness employed with that, that's where I'm like, wow, this is actually hitting some emotional bits here and there, but there's so much other schlocky, like, silliness that, I mean, the tones are a little jagged and, you know, kind of disjointed and whatnot in this, and so I could see that being an issue, but beyond that, I don't know, I love seeing this, like, snapshot written of you know, just exploitation New York City at the particular time. I like the strange relationship that's almost telepathic, I guess, you know, that he can it's like one-way radio then at that particular point, as opposed to being able to go back and forth with each other like they used to be able to. So I don't know, this movie, to use Robert's word because it's the one coming to my mind as well, it has its merits as far as like a more compelling narrative, as far as like, because it is kind of a revenge story at that point, but also just, you know, a family member who's like doesn't want to let somebody go as their life starts to kind of move on as well, because that's what we get in the second half of the film with like the girl that the like still like real looking brother, the Schwarzenegger to the DeVito of that sort of situation.
Jesus, that's an interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. Anyway.
All right. Honestly, I don't really have anything more else to add on to that segment, really.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Then let's get into the segment. I know you want to talk about the acting.
Yeah!
Go ahead, Robert. What were your
Whoa!
thoughts?
Start us off.
Well, let's talk about this sheep shit in a duffel bag, Batman.
Don't remember that line from the comics.
No,
but
because it's
I don't
not
think
from that movie.
Yeah, it was from that fan film where Robin was already Nightwing.
Yeah, exactly. At no point, I don't even, from our main actor to all the way to our little sub actors, no one stood out in this movie. I was even from line delivery and just simple, just overall, just chemistry. Nobody had it. Like they basically felt like they showed up that day. They were given their little sheet and just read it. That's really what this felt like. I really did not. I did not like this acting in this movie, and that was the biggest. I think that really was the biggest thing that pulled me out on just, I think, enjoying more of this movie than what I should have
Mhm.
was the acting. This would have been one of those ones, actually, for those 80s movies that they keep fucking remaking, this is one of those that I think would do really well today.
Listen
I
up,
agree.
Platinum Dunes. Come on, guys.
No, I agree. I think the acting was the biggest weak point for me.
It
as well.
was.
I mean, it's
Nobody
brutal
was
the whole way through.
convincing.
Even the main brother, the main functional brother, is so cheesy and so hammy.
I don't mind him. He's just socially
shut up.
inept.
He's terrible.
Well,
Shut up!
Yes, but he's.
Well, I mean, he was homeschooled by the aunt for so long.
I didn't
so
get
he
into
didn't
him. I
develop
just
the
think
proper social
everyone
skills.
is so over the top when he's like, you know,
It's deliberate though.
I killed him, and then he goes and he grabs the girl and slams her up against the door. I don't want him to kill you too, and then he throws her out on the street. I'm
that
like,
was
dude,
funny.
come on,
Well, also rolling one
He's
girl up
he's
and,
running
like,
down the street with the basket, fucking throwing it
Yeah,
against the
like
side.
Ace Ventura with
Stop
the
it!
GPS box at the beginning of the movie,
It's
literally.
supposed to
Yes.
be funny. I mean,
But then-
No, it's not.
But that's it.
They were not playing that for
I
laughs.
honestly, I really don't think that they were.
I don't
man.
think they were playing
like,
that for laughs.
That's the thing. It's like with like certain like 80s B movies, you get that. That's why they become cult classics, is because of the hilarity and the campiness that wasn't supposed to be there, and that's kind of where this movie falls into play.
I guess, yeah.
Well, but that's actually
I think it
like
suffers for
praising
that.
it.
Yeah, that's
honestly, you know,
praise.
It
yeah,
is!
that's
Well,
like,
to a
like
point,
the
because,
stuff that's
again,
not supposed
it-
to be funny. That's
But
funny.
but
I
that's
feel
the
like
thing.
it was
This
supposed to be.
movie, like, you can't agree, that has become one of those little kind of cult horror 80s movies.
Yeah.
The community's relatively divided on this one. You know, there's some who love it. There's others who are like, it's throwaway. It's dumb.
It's pretty garbo.
It's not. Yeah.
And that comes back to the acting.
Yeah, Fuego, your thoughts on that?
I think the acting is just purposely ridiculously amusing.
Purposely?
Yeah. I think that's
Okay.
how I think that's like the type of people that Frank recruited, the director Henenlotter. I feel like he went for probably a lot of amateurs, you know, and
Why?
deliberately so because he was a first-time feature filmmaker. He was
Okay.
not like this was
Okay.
not made in any studio system. You know, he just
But-
went with probably whoever he could find.
You're probably right.
and
You're probably
so
right.
hey, they.
But
they
you're
did
not.
what they could.
But at least you're not gonna at least read them.
You're giving
Just to-
concessions for what happened behind the scene as opposed to what was presented on screen.
The difference of opinion, I guess, because all those goofy idiots who are idiots, to quote Bobby Singer, who reside within this hotel, even the dumb prostitutes at the end of the movie who were just like, "Are you okay?"
God,
Like,
yeah.
that stuff was funny to me. I don't know. It's just personal.
The drunk
personal
in the
opinion.
yellow shirt.
Yeah, that guy too.
God. Honestly, his death was pretty satisfying because he
Yeah.
was this piece of shit.
Well, that's a good segue then into the
Effects.
effects. Yes, exactly.
They're
He goes,
largely
"Ah."
practical.
yeah.
They're largely practical. They're not very good.
Mhm.
And then the times they're not practical, it's stop motion,
Mhm.
and
That
it
was
sticks
better.
out like but it's still, since it only happened like twice,
Yeah.
it sticks out like a tremendous sore
Yeah.
thumb.
Yeah, with the throwing of the drawers and all that mess.
Yeah, that's just.
But
ridiculous.
I will give them a little thumb and a half up, whatever, you know,
Okay.
fucking, like, you work with your budget and everything. But the stop motion, again, in the 80s, it was still used a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's been done better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I don't know, I felt like that worked a little bit better.
All right, fair enough.
I like.
I did not.
I like the design of Belial, honestly. I do, and
did.
it's even sadder when you see it as a kid initially being taken
Mhm.
off and stuff. So that actually, I do enjoy that. Obviously, when there's people just like wrestling around with it, and
That
it's
was
supposedly
so
trying to-
dumb.
and even worse though, the worst is where just the glove, which from what I read was Henenlotter just putting his hand in a glove and just on people's
Sounds
face.
about-
On
that
people's
sounds
face.
about
He would
right.
pull someone out of frame, and then
Yeah.
they'd pop up with scratches, and then
Yeah.
he'd pull them out of frame again. It's like
One thing I'm really curious though, how
so
the hell he
lame.
ripped that door off the frames with no legs?
Who knows? He was obviously inordinately strong because he was holding the kid at the end.
Yeah, but goddamn.
And-
Adrenaline, man, within the
It was
situation.
stupid.
Yeah.
It was all stupid.
Yeah.
The sound design, though, they tried to make up for a lot of the lacks with the sound design, right? By the the eating whenever
That-
Dwayne would throw stuff into the basket, and it wasn't.
What's
It,
in the basket?
it was so cheesy to me that it
Nah.
didn't work. Like it
It
literally,
was- okay.
it took me out of the movie
To a point,
more
though.
than anything.
To a point, like I did I basically chalked it to of just the grotesque, eating kind of
I guess,
aspect.
but
Also too, like, and this kind of goes back with like the sound and everything, but also with like the sound and music that they used. It that was more of the better C plus of it was the music and the sound, I would say.
I will agree with the music because even though Catherine was like dissing on it last night, I'm like, it's like weird early '80s synthy,
Yeah,
circusy
that's
kind
what
of
I'm
music,
saying,
and
yeah.
I like that kind of stuff.
Because like
But
certain
even that was
certain sounds and everything.
Once again, it's very low budget, man. Like
Who
like
cares?
dirt low budget.
budget doesn't affect the score. You can still have a score
Back then
that
it
doesn't
did.
feel choppy.
Nah.
That's editing. That's not anything to do with
I like
No, that's hearsay.
I like the tones and the melodies, even if they were kind of pedestrian and didn't really develop into much.
We
They
will
were
drag
effective.
you down with us on
They
this
were defective
review
in
for
certain-
you.
Honestly, I'm with Fuego on this last part. So I don't.
All right, well, you both are wrong. So,
Yeah,
all right.
You know,
exactly. We usually are.
Overall, it's Fuego's the only one that seems to be mildly amused by the movie.
More so,
Yeah, this
exactly.
This is like 2.5 to 3. It's like right in
I'd
that
give it
where
2 out of 5 for
I'm
sure.
like more forgiving.
Wow, you
of
give it
this
actually
movie.
more than I would.
1.5 for
One
you.
and a half.
Oh yeah, I'm
1.5.
I'm like a
Happy,
one
like
one
you
to a
said?
1.5 at the
You're like
most.
a 1.5.
I'd say 2 out of 5 at the most for me.
Yeah.
So there you go, guys. That's going to do it for our review of Basket Case. Thank you very much to our patrons for requesting it.
Poll.
Look, there's only 2 more. We might as well go through the rest of the series at this point. So if you are curious to have us do it, then suggest it for one of the polls. Maybe we'll get through the whole thing.
I do feel like with 2 he had more money. It was like the Cameron, Aliens, T2 sort
But
of
then what happened
situation.
with 3?
Yeah. Well,
Same thing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
well, an Alien.
It was
3
like they
and-
stepped
We
it up
don't
with
talk
2.
about that, all right?
It
Yeah,
exists.
although they brought back
I'll take
Kate-
the Secret of the Use any day of the week.
They
I
brought
love that
back-
sequel.
They brought
Yeah,
back
that was a
Casey
great
Really
Jones.
one.
sucks. I know, and then they wasted him by
Mhm.
babysitting Splinter or whatever it
It's
was.
dumb. It's dumb.
Anyway, that's going to do it, you guys. Let us
You
know what
veered
your
off
thoughts
track.
are on Basket Case in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss further reviews. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias. I mean, Fuego.
Robert Duell.
And remember, stay scared.